Half-time in the 23-24 A-League semi-finals and the scales are delicately poised. After another long-haul flight back to Australia, perhaps the Mariners don't do tired after all. Hit in the first 30 minutes, were able to rebound like champion sides do, and will take a 1-goal advantage back to Gosford this weekend. In Melbourne, one of the more predictable games of the season ends without a goal scored, as the Phoenix still total 0 shots on target after now 2 away trips to Melbourne victory this campaign. But does that mean they didn't have any control in the game? Either way, they both set up scintillating second legs, of which the home support is bound to be both abundant and primed for celebration, as two of the league's all-time fairy tale stories clash against the giants of the competition's history. This episode of the A-Leagues of Our Own podcast. My name is Lachlan Avil, and joining me today is Poletti. Get it up in their Wellington Phoenix kit. Is there any question where your allegiances lie in that clash, Poletti?
If there's any questions where my allegiances lie, I would very much suggest that you go seek help from a medical professional.
Okay, well, I think you're on the same page as the majority of the A-League fan base. Will Booth, hello to you. Mariners, of course, just 2 games away from the treble now. It's etching closer and closer.
Yep, and clenching harder and harder, and very worried. So, yeah, hello, everyone. How we doing?
And Christian Montegan as well, hello to you, rounding out our group today.
Good evening, Lockie. Good to be here.
All right, well, we're going to start with Sydney FC 1, Central Coast Mariners 2. The Mariners just keep finding a way. Well, it honestly does seem like the adversity that they faced this season just seems to make them stronger and stronger every week. They've come back from this trip from Oman, one of the longest ones that they've had to face in the AFC Cup, returning with a trophy and all the emotion that comes with that as well, to back it up in the first leg of a semi-final and go behind 1-0 as well early in the game. They fought back and they did so successfully and ended with a 2-1 win.
Yeah, as you said, you could probably tell that they did travel. It looked maybe the start of the game was only maybe some of the only evidence this season we've seen of a bit of tiredness in their legs, and they definitely started that game on the back foot. But yeah, the perseverance and the strength to keep pushing and keep pushing, and that goal late in the first half was well needed, and definitely I think turned the momentum of the tie around a lot. And in the second half it did seem to service as usual for the Mariners, because they did come out playing more like themselves, and it looked like a massive weight off their shoulders to score that goal and go into the second half with the scores level. I didn't know what I really wanted as a fan by the end of that. It was after the 2 red cards, it was such a balancing act of holding that lead and taking that to Gosford, which was we would have taken that at the start of the game. I'm sure they would have, but it also, they were so close to getting a third and putting it 2 goals up, which that's a big mountain to climb for Sydney. But yeah, Sydney still threatened late on with only 9 players on the field. I'm sure we'll get into it, but yeah, I think they'll just take the 1-goal lead. It could have gone either way at the end. You wouldn't have wanted to have wasted that performance and gone to Gosford out with the scores level. So I think they will definitely be happy with that, and definitely with the 2 red cards and just a reduced numbers to the Sydney squad. So yeah, they'll definitely be looking forward to the second leg for sure.
And Poletti, you would imagine that Sydney would be incredibly disappointed with the way they let this one slip. When we previewed this game, we talked about the fatigue factor for the Mariners, and we said, Sydney like to press hard and push early, and they perhaps lose a little bit of their own gas late in games. And they did that. Mariners came in with tired legs. The first 30 was the time to strike, and they did. And the goal didn't come the way they planned. It was through build-up and a little bit of fortune at the end, but they did get that goal, and they did what they had to do. And it still wasn't enough. They couldn't close it out, and now they're chasing the game heading to Gosford.
Yeah, I don't think it's a position that Sydney particularly wanted to find themselves in, is, having to chase. Although, to be fair, there was a game in Gosford earlier this year where Sydney FC absolutely demoralised and demolished the Wanderers, including giving us the miss of the season. So I think it's very much... Sydney certainly aren't done and dusted, but the challenge is going to be difficult. They've got injuries to key players. They've got suspensions to deal with. It's Sydney did everything they could in this game to put themselves into a position to go to Gosford next week and get a result. and then they kind of threw that away. I mean, Caceres, look, it's a pen. Don't think anyone's going to question it. I was listening to A-League off air a little bit on my way home today. I can't remember the Mariners player, but they suggested that he might have been playing for the penalty.
The Harris, yeah.
But the reality is that if you're Anthony Caceres, you've still got to be extra careful in that situation. And the reality is that you did clip him. So yeah, I don't think you can. I don't think there be too many complaints about that. But yeah, I think my analysis of this game is that Sydney basically threw it away. In part because of some of their own fault, in other parts because the Mariners just kind of got into the game and began to play them off the park.
Christian, yeah, I'm with Poletti. I think, Theo Harris, whether he was playing for the penalty or not, you're allowed to do that. And if you get, punished for simulation, whatever, that's your punishment. But if you get clipped, you get contact in the box, it's a penalty. That's what it is. And, Sydney will be disappointed by other factors as well. Andrew Redmayne slipping the ball in front of him for the equaliser, he'd be disappointed with that. Jack Rodwell can have absolutely no complaints about his direct red card. Maybe there's a little bit more grey area in Corey Holman's, but those are fundamental things that, those errors and big moments that have cost them massively in this game.
Yeah, definitely. Like Poletti touched on, they were such in a winning position to take a result into the second leg. But I guess it's a Sydney sort of game style, with the high press, the high intensity, which was great for, that first half an hour when they got the lead. But I think Sydney's problem in parts this season has been being able to, I guess, manage leads, especially against, the big sides. And that's sort of been, slight problem, even in this game here against the Mariners. Obviously, we expected the Mariners to have a slow start, coming back off the AFC Cup. Sydney capitalised in the second half. I mean, obviously the red cards don't help, of course, but at the same time, I just think Tale should have went in with a better mindset in the second half, just to, even at 1-1, just if you get a draw, going to the second leg, that's obviously, you'd take that any day of the week, really, against this Mariners side, who are obviously in top form. So, I mean, yeah, no complaints about the penalty. If you make contact with the leg, Theo Harris can make a theatrical, what have you, but at the end of the day, it's a penalty, so no complaints there. Even with the red cards, I don't think there can be any debate there. So, yeah, I mean, it's really up to Sydney, really in the second leg, to take the initiative and find that goal to, tie it and at least take the extra time. But yeah, it's going to be really difficult from here.
And Will, you alluded to it earlier, but if you're Ufuk Talay late in this game, you're 2-1 down, you're playing the home leg. In theory, you should probably chase a goal there, but you're down to 9 men. But then, the Mariners are even more tired, and they're clearly setting up shop because they want to take a lead back to Gosford, where they're going to have such a bigger advantage as well. Like, he must be standing on that sideline just completely frustrated because he wants to go and put pressure on the Mariners and chase, and he did that to a certain extent. It's pretty hard with 9 players.
Yeah, we saw it was just Fabio really up on his own, and when they did commit, Sydney committed with the 9 players. They committed hard, and it did scare me a few times. It did scare the Mariners. It just wasn't a sustained thing. I think they just got in their own heads a little bit. So as soon as they would have players forward, they would commit, they would go close. They would then, Mariners are good enough to then exploit the space, and having that many players forward, they would just go back up the other end and threaten Sydney. So I think, yeah, Tale looked like didn't really know what to do. Both teams didn't really know what to do. Towards the last maybe 10 minutes of that game, it was really, just a roller coaster. And I think both teams were wary of each other at both ends. And yeah, definitely from Tale's point of view, at that point you can't do anything. There's not any magical solution to playing with 9 men. There's teams don't plan for that. Maybe 10 they do, but yeah, definitely not with 9. And it looked a little like they were lost. So I think Tale's probably the happier of the managers after those 2 reds did occur. But yeah, you can't do much in those situations.
I mean, you even saw it. There was probably a couple of minutes to go. You mentioned Fabio getting forward. He's basically run down into the Mariners' 18-yard box and gets shut down by 4 defenders, and he has no sky blue support with him because they're all stuck up at the other end of the pitch because Tale's got his remaining 7 players parked behind the ball. Which, don't get me wrong, you should be parked behind the ball in that sort of situation. But even when they were able to exploit through natural talents, they weren't able to even take advantage of it.
Yeah, I think it was a missed opportunity to go for it because when they did commit, as I said before, they were still creating enough chances. And if you concede one more, so be it. But if you that equaliser is way more important than going 2-0, 2 goals down in the second.
And Christian, where does Taylor look from here for the second leg? There's already been a number of questions raised about his selection, rightly or wrongly. You've got Courtney Perkins playing in this much more advanced role than we've seen him at any point so far in the year in these last couple of games. Then, of course, the red cards to Jack Rodwell and Corey Holman, whose suspensions were upheld on Monday. And then the injury to Jake Gerwood-Reich as well throws another question mark in their defensive layer. So there's a lot of questions for Tally to consider heading into next week.
A lot of adjustments obviously he's going to have to make for this second leg. I mean, it all started with Joe Lolly. I think he was just a massive out for these 2 legs because they just missed that extra something, after going 1-0, a chance to make it 2 or 3, a couple more opportunities. But even a player like Max Burgess, who has been on the bench recently, I think he can, make a difference as well. Maybe I don't see him starting in the second leg, but, for me personally, if I was coach, I'd probably, have a good think about it to just maybe try something different. Obviously, being a goal down in the tie, I just don't think Tally will have sort of the guts per se, just to try that sort of experiment, not having, done that much this season with Burgess. But he definitely does have the talent to I guess, open up the game where you'd assume the Mariners, not to say that they'll sit back a lot because that's not their game style. I don't think they'll revert to that too much. But at the same time, I think that's just a player, for example, that can really open up the game if Sydney do need something. So even if he comes in early in the second half, I think he's definitely a player that Sydney should turn to.
I mean, if you look at a player like Burgess, it's a player that every team in the league should theoretically want: creativity, pace for days, inventiveness. And he's been at Sydney FC for a while now under 2 different coaches, and neither coach seems to know how to use it. It's you get into that sort of situation last year where Corica was like, okay, if Ninkovic is on the pitch, Burgess is off the pitch. If Burgess is on the pitch, Ninkovic is off. And then you sort of get, and now it's like, okay, Burgess is still there. He's fit. He's firing. And I don't quite know what it is with coaches at Sydney FC and not knowing what to do with Max Burgess. A lot of fans and a lot of media have, questioned, the use of Burgess, and rightly so, in my opinion. I think that this is a player who's just on that precipice of showing everything that he can do, and yet he seems to have just almost been forgotten about at different points. I think it was the sort of, having similar discussions last season about Jaden Kucharski under Steve Corica, where it almost was kind of a similar thing. At least Burgess was getting used under Corica.
Yeah, he's one of the players that if you give him the keys, if you let him do what he can do, one of the most dangerous players in the league. And I think he's just, he had a run in the team, I think, under Corica and looked really good. And maybe Corica does take him to Auckland. I think I've heard that being said a little bit. But it's such a dangerous player when teams come up against Sydney that they always fear him. And he's just never been used in the right way. He's got a unique profile for the league. I think that's what coaches have struggled with. They maybe have a predisposed idea of what they want to do, and then Burgess never really fits in that. But I think it's not someone you want to build the team around, but I think if you give him a little bit more license to do what he can do, you got an absolute player there. So yeah.
Well, perhaps we will see him in the return leg, which is the primetime Saturday night game in Gosford, 7:45 p.m. Australian Eastern Time. You'd imagine that stadium would get sold out again. We know what an occasion it was last year in their semi-final against Adelaide United. Christian already with the advantage, a week's rest, which is a long time compared to their recent calendar of condensed fixtures, and plus this Sydney FC team that has been decimated, as we've talked about. Do you see this one turning around at all, or is it just the Mariners game to lose?
I sort of don't want to spoil my prediction for the end of the show because I do have this game.
Fair enough.
I don't want to give away my prediction too much, but in terms of the tie, I mean, definitely the Mariners do have the slight advantage, being at home, you expect a sold-out crowd, all of this, the rest, like you mentioned, lucky. Obviously, the cards are in their hands, really. I mean, Sydney are the ones who have to go out and, attack the Mariners' defense, try and find spaces, try and find little opportunities here and there, because it's not going to be easy with the Mariners. We know they love to counter-attack, play good football, attacking, free-flowing. So I mean, yeah, the Mariners can approach in different ways, whereas Sydney, Sydney need a goal. So I'm just, fascinated to see how the tactical battle sort of shapes up, especially early on. The Sydney, sort of played safe for the first 10, 20 minutes and then, see it out and just, maybe go for more in the second half. So they don't go maybe 2-3 goals down, or do they go from it right from the get-go? So, a couple of different options for both teams to approach it.
And of course, the APL confirmed during the week that Gosford will host the grand final if the Central Coast Mariners were to qualify. There were a couple of murmurs about it potentially being moved, but that's been confirmed now. That's great for Central Coast. They've had a grand final taken away from them up there in Gosford once before. That will not happen again. And, if the semi-final second leg goes the way they want it to, they get it to do it all again the next week.
Yeah, and if we're quite quick to talk against the APL, and so we got to give them props when they do something right. And this is definitely one of those moves. I think for the Mariners fans, that stadium, they've finished first. They deserve the hosting rights. That stadium adds the fans are everything to the team. So I think playing there is a massive leg up. I know that we did it away at CommBank against City, but the stadium, it's just it's awesome to see that they're allowed to have that right again, and I think obviously a few people might miss out, and the bottom line maybe is hit a bit by APL, but the fact that they made that decision is even though the money maybe suffers a little bit, is really good to see.
Well, I just want to ask you a question super quickly before we move on. We know that when it comes to final series and grand finals and the big one-off games, that you get this audience that tunes in that doesn't necessarily tune in, week out. How surprised do you think fans are going to be that don't know Central Coast Stadium itself are going to be surprised by sauce bottles and palm trees?
It always gives everyone whiplash whenever they first see it. So no, I love taking people there, and the selling point is always stuff like the sauce bottles and the little Master Foods packets sauce you get when you walk in. So no, it just adds to it. It's an embodiment of the club. It doesn't take itself too seriously, and it's just things like that really make it home. So awesome to see the decision, and
what. Do you tell them about the cannon, or do you leave that surprise?
That's a surprise, and the blimp at halftime is a surprise as well. So
I'm sure if all the sauce bottles keep their middle fingers in check, everyone will have a lovely time out at Industry Group Stadium. After our last episode last week as well, we asked some Central Coast Mariners fans if they got up for the AFC Cup final. And I want to give a couple of shout-outs to those who responded. And there were plenty that did, obviously. Monique says, yes, was up and accidentally woke the kids cheering when we scored. I'm sure that was a familiar story. Bob says, just ask our neighbours, who I'm sure were woken up around 4 a.m. by the celebrations coming from our lounge room. And my personal favourite as well, Nick, I was in hospital while the game was on. I got woken up at 3 a.m. to do ops, and I watched the second half. That is a next level commitment, isn't it? Yeah, well, Nick, we hope everything's going okay. But yes, well, congratulations to the Mariners. Terrific achievement that AFC Cup was. But let's head down to Melbourne. Well, if I was harsh about the Sydney Macarthur game last week, then I may as well roll out the scripts again for this one. Melbourne victory 0, Wellington Phoenix 0. Christian, it wasn't a very memorable game. That was probably what Wellington Phoenix wanted. It would only have been memorable if one team came away with a significant advantage. That is not the case. Wellington did what they wanted to do, and they will return back home to hopefully a close to packed out Sky Stadium with it all in the balance.
Yeah, probably expected this one given, the recent fixtures this season. It's been super tight between these two teams, not really much to separate them. We had a team in Wellington who were happy to sit back a bit more than they usually would, as opposed to if they were playing at home, and, they looked to create one or two bright moments there. Even though they didn't have a shot on target, but then you had a victory who were, willing to get on the ball and attack. But, it's one thing to go forward, it's another, to play with intensity, because I thought, they were really lackluster, made too many poor decisions in the final third, which isn't the first time this season. It's sort of the story of the year, really, with victory. So we shouldn't be overly surprised with that. Just a lot of silly shots from distance that were, never really going to test Alex Paulson from 30 yards out. Bonavacia had a couple who probably should have laid it off or, tried to find another pass. But, the one that really annoyed me was the constant long balls and the crosses in the box that, either failed to beat the last man or they were just way too deep. And, understand it's very challenging to, play through the Phoenix because they're so well coached and organized by Italiano, who, he said previously that he emphasizes more on the defensive side of things and keeping a low block away from home, with the travel aspect and all of that. But, it's not like teams all around the world don't deploy that tactic. The best teams, they find a way to win because, they play with high intensity, they maintain a high tempo, and Victory just had none of that really. And what was a real head scratcher was when Fornaroli came off towards the 90th minute in place of Connor Chapman for a defender. I mean, you're playing at home, a nil draw is going to suit Phoenix more than this Victory. So unless Popovich was happy for a draw as well to take over to Wellington and play with that, I'm not too sure. Obviously, I think that was probably his thought process having made that sub because, those last 5 minutes, you obviously keep Fornaroli on to try and find that goal to take to Wellington because, the Phoenix, again, at home, they're going to be a completely different beast. They should have more of the ball, create a few more chances. But, yeah, all in all, like you said, Lockie, the Phoenix have definitely come out of this the happier of the two teams and basically they've done the job, even though it wasn't pretty to watch.
I think the Fornaroli for Chapman question is obviously it's a reasonable one to ask. But if you look back at their clashes so far this season, Victory have conceded two 95-minute goals to the Phoenix that cost them results this season. And I'm sure there were plenty of Victory fans that when they saw the added time board went up and it said 5 minutes, they were going, oh no, not again. Let's not do this. And maybe Popovich, was thinking about that and thought, okay, well, we're not actually looking very dangerous. Maybe if the pressure was on and the momentum was going in their favour, they would have stayed the course. But just knowing that the times that they've been undone by Wellington so far this season has been that late in games, he just wanted to shore it up. That's perhaps the devil's advocate side to it. And I want to ask another question to you all as well, and to those listening at home as well. Who would you say controlled this match? Because I think the word control is very interesting. You look at the stats. Victory had 56% possession, 20 shots against 6, 5 on target against 0. Paul Izzo didn't have to make a single save. But it was, in my opinion, and I know it's Italiano's as well, is that Wellington had control of this game. This is all part of their playbook. And credit to Sasha Pisani for pointing this out. This clip that I'm about to play, this is from one of Italiano's press conferences earlier in the year.
Our football philosophy is more about, and I've said this from day one actually, it's all about control. And that also means that you don't need to be dogmatic and have the ball the whole time in order to dominate a game, because that's also very cliche. Do you have to defend more? Yes. And when you have the ball, do you have to be effective? Yes. So we try to fuse both. Now, when you defend in a low position, that also means that you need to be set up quite well and restrict opponents to chances that are clear and open chances. Do we concede a lot of shots? Yes, we concede a number of shots. But again, they're all in controlled positions.
So Italiano makes it very clear that they're okay with conceding shots as long as they're from very low percentage areas. They would defend the dangerous ones. And to me, this is exactly what happened on the weekend. Paulson had to make, 5 or 6 saves, but they were all straight at his chest. And the ones that weren't straight at his chest were 10 metres wide of the goal. So they didn't concede dangerous opportunities. They didn't have the ball either, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they weren't in the game or didn't have any control.
No, absolutely. And we've seen this from a lot of the really good out of possession teams around the world. Like I remember Burnley did this under Dyche, where they would have 30 shots that conceded a game, but they were all just straight from the middle of the field, 30 meters away. So it's a legit tactic. And yeah, I think you were right in saying that that Phoenix had control. They loved to sit in there. I'm doing my best Jacob impression with this tactic section, but yeah, they sat in their 4-1-4-1, really compact block, and they just neutralized Victory's biggest assets, which is their wingers and getting in behind and utilizing the space in behind wide midfielders and the fullbacks especially. But yeah, how the Phoenix sat in their block was just, you cannot pass through them. They by the time that long ball goes over, they just shift, and you got no space in behind. Sure, you got space wide of the players and on the sideline of the pitch, but there's no threat out there. There's no threat out there. It's that's where you want the ball. And yeah, the Phoenix 100% executed their game plan, whereas I think Victory did not. So I would definitely agree with the Phoenix being in control. And yeah, it's really good to see a lot of out of possession work. The importance placed on that by Italiano is really cool to see, and I think it shows in their defensive record. When they want to set up like this, they're just impenetrable, and it's exciting to see tactics evolved in the league a bit like this, like with some fresh coaches, and when you take a chance, and I don't think, as we said multiple times this year, nobody really had them going this far, but sometimes all it takes is just some fresh ideas and some modern tactical ideas, and really good performance from them.
Yeah, and of course, most of the comments that come out of this kind of conversation criticise his style of play. It's not fun. It's boring football. How long until Wellington fans get bored? Will Italiano try to change his approach in different scenarios? And I'm going to play another clip here answering a similar question by painlfully after their away game to City earlier this season.
I have my idea of the way I'd like to play, but sometimes I think it's unrealistic with the group of players that I have at the moment, because it takes time to evolve and give the confidence to the players. I feel as though sitting back on the counter-attack and defending a little bit lower suits this team. In an ideal world, I would like to play like a De Zerbi, Brighton, for example. It takes a long time to get to that sort of that playing model and a maturity within the group.
So, Christian, I think it's fair to say that Italiano is a bit of a realist in terms of how he chooses to set up his teams. But I think it's also fair to say that Phoenix Cans don't really care about it, at least right now. They're the only current A-League team that does not have a major trophy. They don't care how it comes. They just want to lift something.
Exactly. You put it this way. I mean, the Phoenix have sort of been irrelevant when it comes to, finals football, making grand finals. I mean, most seasons they barely, able to scrape into the top six, let alone fight for, semi-final berths, grand final. So for Phoenix fans' perspective, they shouldn't really care as long as their teams, winning games of football and getting results. That's what they wanted from day one, really. And, I hate this theory how, you've got to play good attacking football. It's got to be good to the eye every single time. I mean, I'd argue that if every single team did that, it'd be boring, because if you're watching, the same every time. I think it's good that, honestly, teams like Wellington and Italiano, coaches like that, they're playing to their strengths. It's not like, let's keep us open and, concede 3-4 goals a game. He's playing to his strengths. He's got a very tall back line. He's obviously, deployed some good defensive tactics, and, defending is part of the game at the end of the day. Like, it's not a dark art. It's part of the game, as well as attacking. It's the same thing. So the fact that Italiano has been able to get results, on the transition as well, because we know how dangerous they are. Even again in this game against the Victory, they might not have had a shot on target, but there were a couple of balls they played in behind, which caused the Victory 1 or 2 problems. So that's what they're capable of. And like I said, when it comes to the home fixture on Saturday, they'll be well more equipped at home, to put a dent in, Victory's defense and, make more of a game of it in terms of the attacking. So it's not like they can't attack. Italiano just plays his cards right at the right time. So that's a credit to his coaching.
Yeah, and Poletti, Italiano, as he said, is optimistic and has an idea of the way he wants to play in the future, much more expansive kind of football. But we will see little bits of that this weekend. We know at home they're going to be fresh. They won't have to have travelled. They'll be in their routines, as Italiano has said, is important. And that is the time where they are going to be coming out of their shell a little bit more, still resilient defensively and positioned well and well structured and this kind of thing. They will go at Victory more here, trying to press for a win.
If they won't have to have travelled, how do they get back to Wellington?
Okay. Not in the few days before. You know what I mean?
Yeah, look, we very much know that, as we already touched on as well, Wellington play very differently away from home than what they do at home. They're going to have the crowd behind them. They're going to be able to very much play a different style. They're a little bit more used to the climate, which skews colder. Although, to be fair, coming from Melbourne, probably used to colder weather down there a little bit. But I think this is very much going to be Wellington's game to lose. I think it's not going to be pretty, because we've seen it this year. These two sides just match up so well against each other from a tactical perspective. Like, we've now seen 360 minutes of this, and there's been like less than 4 goals across the games, if memory serves me correctly. Like it's just
exactly 4, I think.
Exactly. Like, but yeah, it's been so tight, just so compact. Like there should not be 4 goals across 360 minutes of football between two sides. It just defies logic.
Not in the league with the highest goals per game stat.
Exactly. It defies logic. And so, look, this could be tight, but I very much think that it's Wellington's game to lose. And yeah, I think the idea of just coming together and giving them another shot at, winning a trophy, the only side in the league who hasn't done it yet. So it's very much Wellington's game to lose for mine.
And Tony Popovic took a little bit of a risk in this game as well. A lot of surprises in his starting 11. 4 changes to the team. In comes Salim Khalifi, Valupale Valadon and Bonavazia, the latter of which, of course, was for the suspended Zinedine Mashash, but also come out at Ben Falami, Jake Brimmer and Daniel Arzani, who have been among Victory's best players. Now, Popovic pre-game said that, last week in the Melbourne derby, 10-man, 120 minutes, took a lot out of the team, physically and emotionally as well, that comes with that. No injury concerns specifically, but a couple of those players had very limited minutes in training. Perhaps he was a bit more keyed in to, the Wellington Phoenix style and knew that they wouldn't be under so much of a threat in this game. So it was an opportunity to allow some of his better players to recover, to make sure that they were fit for the 90 minutes that, let's be honest, does matter. I know it's the one where they have to play away from home, but it's the one that counts. And if the 90 minutes in Wellington is where all the drama and all the action is going to be, then perhaps that is where you need your best players.
Yeah, it certainly wasn't the strongest lineup. I don't want to, due to the game before and 120 minutes in their legs, I don't want to say that it was a negative lineup, but it was definitely a choice. It was, let's see how the game goes. I think as you said, he knew that they wouldn't be under that much pressure early on. So I think it was a way to kind of read the game out. You can make early subs. You can make a sub at halftime if you felt like Brimmer and Arzani and Falami would make an impact. But I think the game got to a certain point where he said a few they can have half an hour at them. He didn't want to push them for 90, wear them out, and then not have that impact in the second leg. So I think it does look like a negative lineup from the outside, but if they win 1-0 and they score and Bonavazzi score, it goes different. It's all outcome based, so you can't really be too mad at that. I just had an issue with the commentators saying that he had an attacking bench pre-game, which I don't really agree. I don't know if you guys listen to football cliches, but I don't think an attacking bench makes any sense. But yeah, the Falami and Arzani coming on, it just they're not playing their best football against Phoenix, right? They weren't able to do what they're best at. So yeah, it could have been a kind of setup thing from Popper as well. He wanted to play in this certain way and see if they had any luck, maybe progressing the ball a bit more and not getting in behind. But yeah, didn't come off in the end, and I think he'd take that 0-0 to the second leg.
Christian, the wholesale changes are one thing. I want to ask a specific question about Rolly Bonavazia as well, because when he came into this team in the January window, and he's made a few sub appearances since, we kind of thought he maybe fit into that double pivot that Melbourne have. They started Ryan Teague and Jake Brimmer a lot of the time, also including players like Geordie Valadon and Fabian Monge as well. And you think Victory have a lot of players in that area. Is Bonavazia needed? But maybe, looking back on it now, maybe he was the backup to Zinedine Mashash if they ever had to start someone else in that 10 slot. We know when Bruno went away, they tried a lot of different players in striker, but also in that number 10 slot as well, moving players around for Lupale, Economides, those types. Maybe Bonavazia was the answer to that problem as well.
Yeah, I think he's one of those players where he's versatile and he can play in a few multiple positions. He can plug in the midfield. He can play as a number 10 behind Fornaroli. So Popovic definitely has options there that he can use. And like you guys have mentioned, Popovic would have said before the game, okay, Wellington, most likely they're not going to come at us. They'll probably sit deep. We're going to have more of the ball. So obviously, to put Bonavazia there where he's only made a few sub appearances, it's not that big of a risk as opposed to starting him in the second leg, for example, because from the outside looking in, I probably would have started Azani in the number 10, just to provide that bit of creativity, in the middle, obviously with Masash, not playing through suspension, because obviously, Azani is good out on the wings. That's his preferred position, but I just would have liked to see, something different, because Bonavacia, like I said before, he was taking a couple of shots from 30 yards, couldn't really break the lines. He was struggling a bit there. So we should see what Popovich does in the second leg. Does he stick with Bonavacia behind Fornaroli? Does he try something different with Azani, for example? So, the experience didn't really work a whole lot, but at the same time, he didn't really have any risk, so to say, in his first leg, because it was all, sort of victory, pampering the goal. So, just interested to see how he goes about his lineup in the second leg. Hopefully less controversial, that's for sure.
Yes, you would imagine apart from Mashash, everyone fit and firing, you'd return those 3 players back into the starting lineup. It depends. I thought actually Salim Khalifi and Valadon specifically had a pretty good game as well, and perhaps are causing some issues for selection, but at the very least, he's got plenty of players to pull on.
So I was going to say, just on that selection, one that kind of baffled me in this game was Casey Boss. And, Popovich talked last week about how these players have to earn their opportunities. These young players, they've got to work hard in training, earn their opportunities, and they get rewarded for those opportunities. Well, what more can Casey Boss do in 120 minutes of football than what he did last week to earn an opportunity in this game? And then he's an unused sub on the bench. I don't know. It just...
But the game didn't call for him, though, Poletti. It called for him last week because they were chasing the game and they needed something. They didn't need it this week.
I just don't understand. I just don't understand how you can come out and say, these players deserve their opportunities when they work hard for them, and we're going to reward them with opportunities, and then you're going to leave them on the bench as an unused substitute. I'm not. Is there any?
Because that's a holistic perspective on giving young players opportunity. But when it comes down to it, week in, week out, they're there to win games of football. And Casey Boss is there because, as Popovich has said, he's put in a large amount of work over a 2 to 3 year period, and he's earned his place to be on the bench for the first team. And absolutely, he came off the bench and made a huge impact last week in the derby. But they just didn't need that impact this week. And whilst it is good that he's getting minutes at senior level, they're there to win games of football. And Popovich isn't sitting there in the 87th minute saying, I think Casey Boss needs some minutes.
It's part of the situation as well. You're playing Wellington Phoenix. They've obviously had an unreal season. To put an inexperienced player in there like Casey Boss in this game here in the first leg, it's a bit risky. And we know Popovich, what he's like, in these sort of big moments. He likes to rely on his more experienced players, his veterans, so to speak. So, I get what you're saying, Poletti. I do agree in some sense. But in this game in particular, I just don't think he was the player, that we sort of needed right from the get-go. More of a player off the bench, which he could have used maybe towards the end, but I wouldn't say that controversial.
All right. Well, looking forward to the return leg. The big news is that it is sold out. The car park has at very least. There's no more parking available for Sky Stadium for the game next week, but there is boosted services on public transport as well. It looks like it's going to be very close to packed out. We believe under 5 figures left in terms of tickets remaining as well. You'd imagine with, the 0-0 scoreline, Nick's probably edging as favourites. That would only diminish smaller and smaller as well, which is great. It is a level playing field going into the home leg for Phoenix. The anticipation is getting crazy. It's the early game on Saturday, 4:30. It's going to be packed up. The Knicks will be fresh at home. It's all set up for them.
Yeah, this is what they've wanted to, they've looked forward to all season. I think this home final means so much to them, and we've seen it when they get around Sky Stadium before. It's a wild atmosphere, and the shirts come off very early. It's the fans definitely add a big element there. So no, they'll have this plan. They'll be ready for it, and I think as it seemed like they were in the first leg, I think they're going to be a few steps ahead of this victory team who have a big task on their hands.
Christian, you gave us your prediction when we did our full finals bracket. You had the Wellington Phoenix going through. Poletti, how do you see this second leg turning out?
I think I said it about 10 minutes ago. Wellington Phoenix for mine. I think this is going to be too hard to stop at home. I think the fact that, not that I remember every result this season, but the only sort of shock result that I can remember happening in Wellington was the Newcastle Jets coming over and beating them. That's sort of like really, really shock result. I think that the Knicks are going to be too good at home. 4:30 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time, 6:30 p.m. in New Zealand. Tickets selling fast. Honestly, get your tickets and get there and support a side that is playing great football at home, playing great football on the road, even if it's not the most visually appealing. And is in with a legitimate chance at their first toilet seat in the A-League Men competition. And this game is only on Paramount Plus for those in Australia, so don't go looking for it on Channel 10. You won't find it. You have to have Paramount Plus.
You do, and we won't delve into another conversation about free to air and streaming, because we've done that plenty. But yes, you just managed to sneak that one in there, didn't you? Let's do a little bit of Aussies abroad. It's been a big week for our Australians overseas. 6 of them have secured promotion to the top 5 European leagues. St. Pauli in Germany, Jackson Irvine, of course, is captain, and Connor Metcalf as well. Sunday night Australian time secured promotion from Bundesliga 2 into the German top flight, and one more win against relegation-threatened Wehen to secure the Bundesliga 2 title. The week before that, we had Ipswich with Massimo Luongo and Cameron Burgess. They finished second in the championship and wrapped up automatic promotion to the Premier League. And then Parma in Italy as well. Alessandro Cercati, hope you're proud of that, Christian, won the Serie B and will be going up as well. And then there's a couple other shout-outs there. Of course, Harry Suter with Leicester hasn't been involved in a matchday squad since March, but he is part of that team that got promoted as well and won the championship. And then Cassina Yengi and Alex Robinson, who, of course, the latter has been injured towards the back end of the season, but also they've earned promotion from League One up to the Championship. Christian, it's been a great year for those Australians in those lower tier domestic competitions. They've been pushing up and they've been rewarded.
Yeah, I think the argument's been past seasons that we don't have enough Aussies playing in the top flight, especially in the top leagues in Europe. So to have so many shy, especially in the Premier League, Ipswich Town, Massimo Luongo, for example, reviving his career in some sense, which is great to see. Alessandro Ciccati in Italy, the likes we had Bresciano, Vince Grello playing, in Serie A, over a decade ago, and just to see this sort of re-emergence of, these youngsters, playing their train in the top leagues. It can only do their experience a world of good, and, to learn from, top coaches around the world to get that experience abroad is just fantastic for them. So, yeah, obviously great to see. St. Pauli, another great story in Germany. They were in the Bundesliga, I think, 2010 or 2011. So they've been fighting to try and get promoted back up for a while now. Jackson Irvine's sort of been at the heart of it, captain of the side. They fully deserve it. So, yeah, terrific to see.
The Tarniet Regional Football Facility is no more. Ironbark Fields, in the glorious shadow of the Ironbark Pavilion, are the two names which have been ratified in the last week for Western United's new home base. Poletti, a team can maybe do it under the bright lights of their big city stadiums, but can they do it on a rainy Sunday afternoon at Ironbark Fields? It's got a nice ring to it.
That's assuming that the stadium can be accessed, because I believe the car park is still just dirt. So, the driveway and the car park.
You can park on dirt.
You're going to get bogged in the mud.
That's true.
Is the question I was more getting at there. But no, it's got its formal name now of Ironbark Fields. It rolled off the tongue a little bit better than the Thai Regional Football Facility. Although that's certainly a lot more fun to say and confuse our international viewers leagues. Try pointing out where Tiny is on a map.
Will, what do you make of Ironbark? It's a bit intimidating, isn't it? Like, it's a bit rough and tumble, not quite the Western brand that we've known the last few years.
No, it feels quite corporate, quite cold. Definitely somewhere you don't want to go. Feels I would say it's somewhere I'd expect to play on a weekend. It feels a bit Sunday leaguey, to be honest, as well. So it's doesn't really strike fear, but we'll see how it goes.
We'll see how it goes. It'll be the brand that they they're trying to make it a fortress, trying to make it one of these defendable places. But they have a name now for their stadium. Another news, per George Clark at AAP, Football Australia have handed down a 2-year ban to the Western Sydney Wanderers supporter who was alleged to have performed a Nazi salute at last month's Sydney derby. The ban encompasses all matches sanctioned by FA. That includes national teams, Australia Cup, A-Leagues, NST and NPL games. As of 2022, the salute is illegal in New South Wales as well. It carries a maximum jail term of 12 months. and police are still investigating that matter. Now, Poletti, you've had your Poletti's Rants segments in the A-League women's episodes throughout this season. I'm going to take one from you. I know you've kind of trademarked the rant section, but you allowed Christian to have Christian's complaints. I don't know if you can find an alliteration for me as well. But I saw the announcement of the A-League's Player of the Year nominees, the Fans Player of the Year nominees. And this is just completely ridiculous. Now, for those who are not aware, there are a list of 17 players that were nominated for the Fans Player of the Year in the A-League men's. And these are a couple of the names that were not featured. Melbourne City's Tolgay Arslan, Central Coast Mariners, Josh Nisbet, Brian Kaltak, Brisbane Roar, Jay O'Shea, Jets, Apostolos Stamatolopoulos, Bulls, Uli Davila and Valeja Main, and Wellington's Alex Rufer. None of them in the list of 17, let me say it again, 17 names that were nominated for the Fans Player of the Year. Now, the reason why they weren't is because this list is a combination of players who won Player of the Month awards and the top 15 of Opta's index player performance. Now, I understand that they probably agreed to this deal without knowing what was going to happen, and it's completely out of their control now. But to have a list, Christian, of the 17 quote-unquote best players in the league that you can vote for and not have those names that I just mentioned, it's so low down in terms of priorities of where we are in Australian football, but it just bugs me so much.
No, this is a top priority for sure. How can you not have Josh Nisbet? He's literally been like the best player in the league. You can not have him in the top 17. I mean, but again, it's just sort of the system, like the index, that sort of stuff. So you can't really control that aspect. But at the same time, you look at that, it's so frustrating. Like Tolgay Arslan, he's been terrific this season. Contributing to Melbourne City's skills, just been brilliant. I mean, some of those players, you're just scratching your head thinking, how the hell are they not in the 17? But again, I mean, what do you do about it, really?
Sorry, I was going to say the biggest problem for me here is that it's based on Opta's index scores, but we know that Opta, provide the stats for the Paramount Plus Player Index, and that's just baffling a formula in and of itself. How do we even know how they've come up with this index and these scores and how they've decided these players? But I think the biggest injustice in this is that I'm looking at our run sheet and I can see the tweet. You're telling me that there's not an emoji for a city, like a building or something, or like a Phoenix emoji or anything like that. You've gone through and found emojis for every other team, but you haven't bothered with Melbourne City or Wellington Phoenix. I think, and I'm going to accuse you here of bias as being a Victory fan. I think,
wow,
Margaret, this will do. When it's a disgrace.
You know what? I completely refute this because the biggest problem in emoji selection for these tweets is the fact that there's no dark blue. So if I want to put blue in for Melbourne Victory or something, the only blue that I'm stuck with is this sky or city blue for the Sydney FC in Melbourne City. So I'm having none of that.
You can just use a giant V.
No, that doesn't exist. Go find me the emoji on Twitter with a giant V, and I'll happily use it.
Capital V. No one will know the difference.
Yeah, but that's not an emoji. It doesn't fit the format. Anyway, I'm getting into a whole new topic of rants here. All right, let's finish off this episode with our predictions game. This was a good one this week. So we have a couple of flops, but not too many. Christian said Victory and Sydney would both win. Neither of those happened. Ross said Victory would win. Nope. And Will, you went against your own team saying the Mariners to lose the first leg, which I don't think was an unpopular opinion, but they did get it done. Now, Poletti, you said that in Victory versus Wellington, both sides would have at least 7 shots and 2 on target. Victory definitely did. Wellington definitely did not. So you got halfway there, but I don't think we're giving you a whole lot of credit for that. But we do have 3 spot on as well. So Chris said the Phoenix wouldn't lose in 90 minutes, which of course they did not. Jacob said there would be at least 6 yellow cards across the 2 games. There were exactly 6, and that's not including Corey Holman's second one either. And then I said Wellington Phoenix to have no more than 1 shot on target. They had 0. And if you want to be really, really nitpicky, they had half a shot on target. It's because Zavada did manage to get a shot on target, but it was flagged offside. But he also then the ref played advantage from that. So I'm not sure if that counts in the definition of shot on target, but I get my prediction on the nose anyway. So I'll open it up to discussion. How are we ranking those last 3 for a 3-2-1?
So I want to give credit here to Jacob. I think 6 yellow cards despite what we've seen this season, it's still a very high bar to clear across 2 games. Like if you'd have said 5, I'd be more inclined to go with you for 3 points. But I think just putting that extra level to it, I think stands out a little bit more, because I was being a little bit optimistic with my prediction, but I think based on what we've seen across Wellington games against Melbourne Victory this season, your prediction is still a relatively low bar to clear.
That's harsh. That is harsh. I think the lowest
a game where they didn't get a single shot on target, and the only reason they got a goal was because it was
but one game.
Yeah, they do.
One game.
It's a final. They do want to score. That's I think as much as it pains me to say, I think Lockie does come on top. I think Chris's is the lowest bar. That's not even. It's correct, but I'm not. Come on.
It's a 1 voter, right?
It's a 1 vote. That's a 1 vote easy. Jacob, if he said exactly 6 yellows, bang, that's 3 points, but he didn't. Still a good shout. 2 points. I think that makes sense. And yeah, I'll give it to you, Lockie. I think
we have to remember to factor in Poletti's clear bias as the current leader in the rankings as well.
There is absolutely no bias.
I'm the voice of reason. I'm out. No skin in the game. I'm second bottom, I think. Even Christian has. Yeah, I don't know what's happening there with you, mate. No bias. It's Lockie 3 points for me.
Christian, what's your input?
No, I 100% agree with Will. I mean, for you, like it was only 1 game with Wellington, didn't have a shot on target that first game. I mean, that's just 1 game. Like, that's pretty hard to do, to not get a single shot on target. So I think you've done well there. I think that's a 3 voter. Chris is a pretty low bar, mixed not to lose. I mean, it's not out of the ordinary. I mean, that's a 1 voter there, and I think Poletti gets it too.
All right. 3 votes to me then. 2 for Jacob and 1 for Chris. That does shake up the rankings again. I jump to top spot over Poletti with 20 points. Jacob in second on 18 and Poletti with 17 in third. It is now a 3-horse race with 2 weeks left to go. We're the only ones left in it. Sitting in fourth is Chris with 12. Christian has, in recent weeks, worked himself up into fifth with 9 points. It's very impressive for you. And then Ross 8 and Tona 7. And Will laying down low on 6. You were doing pretty well considering you joined late and got some early votes, but I think you're now on a 7-week streak of blanks.
Yeah, just like a 7-year wooden spoon streak. Sounds familiar.
All right. Well, let's move on to this week. Poletti, you want to kick us off?
Yeah, so I think that across the 2 games, there's going to be 50,000 fans in attendance. I don't know. I'm sort of hitting.
So remind us of the capacities.
So it's 34,500 seated capacity at the Cake Tin in Wellington, and 20,059 capacity seated at Central Coast Stadium. So I think when you account for the fact that even if both games were to be announced as sellouts, you always get people who, don't turn up at the last minute, whether it be traffic issues, sickness, all those sorts of fun things. So I think there'll be at least 50,000 fans across the 2 fixtures, pending them both selling out. And I think, I saw from David Dome today on Twitter that there's less than 8,000 seats available in Wellington, and I believe the Mariners are close to selling out as well. So I think that by the time Saturday rolls around, both stadiums will sell out. You won't be able to get a ticket, and I think that those that walk through the gates will be about 50,000 or at least 50,000.
All right, Christian, let's go to you.
I did want to share my prediction at the start with the Sydney Mariners. So I think Sydney somehow take the Mariners to extra time. I don't know where the result's going to lean on from there. Maybe the Mariners take it, but I'm just going to go with Sydney to take the Mariners to an extra 30 minutes. I think they'll somehow find a way. I don't know how, but they will.
Get it to extra time. Very interesting. All right, Will?
I'm going to go a little double game multi, Barbarousas and Docker to either score or assist each.
Okay, nice. A little bit open-ended. Chris in absentia has said that Wellington won't lose in 90 minutes again, so they'll either win it or push it to extra time. Ross has victory getting up, and I am going to say that Wellington will have at least 5 shots on target. So I'm flipping my prediction from this week. I'm going the other way. They're going to pile it on and get a few more balls heading towards the goal. And then finally, to wrap us up, Jacob's I really like this one. I think this is good money. Both Paulson and Izzo to save a penalty in their game. And that includes the shootout as well. So if they manage to get there, it's still not set in stone either. But I think that's Poletti. I think that's a good one because it's niche, but if he hits it, he's going to be coming for the top of the votes. And you need 3 votes in these last 2 rounds, you and Jacob.
Well, obviously he's predicting the penalty shootout.
Pretty much. But even more than that, like they might not make a save each.
So I definitely think Jacob's doing well there to play the numbers. Now, I want to put a little bit of twist on this, and I think Christian's been very hard done by, throughout his predictions throughout the year, whether they be, predictions or otherwise. I want to give Christian an opportunity here to try to pick up some extra points. Now, no. Hold on, hear me out because I think this will be fun.
Right, go on. I want to do this.
So he's got Sydney to take the Mariners to extra time. Now, for 1 extra point, I'm not going to give you 3 or 2. I think 1 extra point. Give us a score prediction. Is it going to be 1-0 at the end of 90? Is it going to be 2-1, 3-2? Like, give us a score here that will send the game to extra time for 1 extra point.
I can't see it being a 1-0. I reckon it's going to have to be a 2-1. Both teams to score, but I think Sydney might edge it 2-1.
All right. Well, I mean, I get annoyed, but knowing Christian, it probably won't matter anyway. So we'll just let that sit where it is for now.
I've never felt more confident about Mariners and the treble until Christian predicted Sydney to go through.
Well, on the topic of trebles as well, I'll whisper it quietly, but I do have the crown for both the A-League men's and the A-League women's Christmas predictions. So if I manage to get the win, I have a 2-point lead now in the season-long game. Could be going for a treble of my own, just putting that out there. Don't say it too loudly. Pressure's on. Poletti, you're chasing me down, though.
Yeah, sure.
All right. Well, that will do for this episode of the A-Leagues of Our Own podcast. If you enjoy the show, please do share it with your friends. Give it a like, give it a comment, all that stuff. But Christian Montegan, thank you very much and look forward to a brilliant weekend of semi-final action.
Thanks for having me, Lockie. We'll do. Be an amazing, semi-final back-to-back on Saturday. So, yeah, looking forward to it.
Will Booth, hope you enjoy watching the games on the plane on the weekend.
Yes, thank you. Hopefully that Wi-Fi won't be too expensive on the flight.
And Poletti, you making the journey up to Gosford?
Gosford, Saturday, maybe. I haven't decided yet.
All right, leaving us on a nice edge. All right, thank you all very much for listening at home. We will be back on Friday. Thank you all for listening. Goodbye.